So I always start with a similar question, and that's tell me about an experience in your life when you remember being moved.
Um, I'm mainly known for sim racing. At the moment, I think a moving moment really in my career as a sim racer anything anyway was being asked to come on as an official driver for Prismatic Motorsports, the team I still race for now. Um,
How did that happen? First, what's Prismatic Motorsports for people who've never heard of it?
Prismatic Motorsports is a sim racing team by and for trans people. It was set up, I think, a little over 2 years ago.
Is it
Kind of
international or is it?
Yeah, it is. We have drivers from all over. Three of the ownership board are in the States. One is in England. I'm the only Irish driver, but we
No.
have a number of drivers throughout Europe, England, like just UK generally, and the
Mhm.
US. But we're a team of and by trans people hoping to carve out the spot that we deserve within both sim racing and ideally motorsports as a whole, is to represent ourselves and put ourselves forward, really.
Is there a history of trans people in motorsports? Or has it been difficult or?
Honestly, I'm not that sure. I know there
Yeah.
was a trans woman that was racing in England, I think, in the 40s, but I don't
Hmm.
remember her name. And then obviously Charlie Martin is racing today. But otherwise, I don't actually know of any trans people historically that have raced.
But that's a pretty good community there at Prismatic, it seems.
Yeah, everyone is very supportive of each other, hoping to like lift each other up and that kind of thing. But how it happened was early on in the history of Prismatic, they ran a charity racing series to raise money for a UK charity called Mermaids. And like I had like that had been brought to my attention and I joined the community and started racing in that series and must have impressed enough in my first appearance in the series that I was offered like an official part of the team basically as a driver.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That was quick. For people who don't know what you're talking about and think you mean like driving in real out on the track,
Oh yeah,
what
no.
does this mean? What does it mean to start racing
Um,
and
so for those that don't know, sim racing is base principles, basically a computer program that is designed to replicate real life physics of how cars behave, like on track to under certain load with aerodynamic forces and tire modeling and this kind of thing. Think basically the simulators that the big teams in like Formula One have, or like just the simulators that teams have in their home bases,
Mhm.
but like multiplayer and can be run on a home PC, which has like peripherals and things such as like wheels and
Cool.
wheelbases.
So you have a whole rig, huh?
Yeah, I have a whole rig. Courtesy of having one screen to speed. Uh,
Oh, yeah? What were you
yeah,
using before?
I actually had a wheel clamped to my desk with my
Oh,
pedals
like
like
a DIY kind of thing?
yeah with
Whoa, that's cool.
with my pedals underneath the desk braced
Oh,
against two pieces of wood that were like held down by a guitar amplifier.
oh, that's awesome. Maybe it was
It
even somehow like the secret, the
um
reason you were so far ahead.
I don't know, I think it was probably actually a handicap.
Oh, really?
Because
Well, but that
yeah,
could also be like a handicap like that you had to overcome that made you better, or in
mhm.
general, you were better once you got a rig.
I mean I haven't had the rig very long. I haven't done much racing
Hmm.
with the rig yet, so I don't know if it's made me better or not.
But you were already really interested in this in
Yeah.
sim. Yeah.
So prior to getting involved in some prismatic, because we mainly race on iRacing. I should have said that. iRacing is one of the more popular anyway multiplayer racing simulators. But I'd already been like active on an iRacing, and before that on like Assetto Corsa and the Dirt Rally games, and before that even on the Formula One games,
Oh,
and
wow.
even before that Need for Speed Most Wanted, the original 2005 game, is like one of my core childhood memories.
Yeah, wow, 2005, where you were like
Mhm.
really a little kid, right?
I mean, I was probably playing it around 8, so in like
Wow.
2008, 2009, but still like on a PlayStation 2, and we never had a memory card for it, so I never
Oh
finished the
gosh,
game.
that's so
I
cool.
always just played over the same levels over and over again.
Do you remember your first video game? not
Um,
necessarily racing.
it was probably a PlayStation 2 game. I think we inherited that PlayStation 2 from one of my cousins. So I got a bunch of games. So there's like the Need for Speed Most Wanted. There were like the old Medal of Honor games from the PlayStation 2. Simpsons Hit and Run, which I didn't play very much. I think the CD might actually have been damaged.
Come
Like
on, there must be
it's
some favorite from when you were a kid or something. No,
a
no?
favorite. It was definitely. It was definitely Need for Speed Most Wanted. That's the one that I
Okay.
cherish
So
the
that was the
most in my
addiction, or no?
memory. That was the start of it, anyway.
Okay, okay. And where are you? For people who, I mean, where did you grow up? And
I'm from Dublin in Ireland. I've lived here for all of my 22 long, tiring years.
tiring because you work so hard. You
Well,
just got
yeah,
off work, right? We should tell
yeah.
everyone you've had a long day.
I did just get off work. I finished work. Well, actually, I finished work 3 hours ago, and I got home an hour ago.
And that's because you had to take the bus. And why did you have to take the bus?
I had to take the bus because my motorcycle got stolen. I also
Oh,
ride a motorcycle. We're learning a lot of things about me in
we
quick
are
succession.
very quick.
But my motorcycle was a green Kawasaki Z400.
And when did you get this? Because as I understand it, you had only just gotten your motorcycle license, right?
I got it in February, but Irish
Okay.
motorcycle law, like licensing laws, are kind of weird.
Oh, okay. What,
Um,
weird, like they don't care? They just let you drive, or weird?
oh no, weird. Like when you're 16, you can get a 125cc bike. When you're 18, you can go straight to a bike with up to around about 50 horsepower. So that's
Okay.
why I have a 400. I had a 400cc.
Ah,
And then after you're 24, you can just get whatever you want. But you have to like also do specific rider training for all those licenses.
so why do you ride a motorcycle? Do you also, because I feel like someone said in one of the videos, or maybe it was Steffi or something, that you don't have a driver's license, but you're a race car driver.
I
Then you went to the motorcycle. So can you clarify for me?
Okay,
Story.
so the whole thing of it is I have a car learner's permit and a motorcycle learner's
Okay.
permit,
So you
but I
do have the
am
permits. Okay.
yes, but I'm only qualified at the moment to ride a motorcycle. I
Okay.
haven't done any like car driver training, so I can't actually drive a car, and I can't like go out and do my test tomorrow. And if I pass it, I can get a full license.
Oh, okay.
Because in Ireland you have to do 12 1 hour like teaching sessions, like practical teaching in a car with an
Yeah, yeah.
instructor.
Mm.
You have to do 12. It's called essential driver training or something.
Let's go back to sim for a minute, because the sim racing you were really
Hmm.
good at. You got
Yeah.
on Prismatic, and
Yeah. I've been within the community of Prismatic for about 18 months, but I've probably been an official driver for around about that long, maybe just a year or so. But as a team, most of what we do really, like most of what we compete in is endurance series. So we've done the last 2 seasons, maybe 3. I have lost count of a series run by an organization called FTR. They do an endurance GT endurance series where last season anyway, it was GT3s, GT4s, and touring cars on iRacing. So we do that a lot. We do the occasional iRacing official event. So we've done the Daytona 24 2 years in a row. I did Paris Le Mans last year. As
oh,
well, we did Jimmy Broadbent's 23 Hours of Zalder charity
oh,
race, and I helped organize the teams for that, which was interesting.
you're talking about all
Hmm.
these different kinds of races and different races in different cars and so on.
Yeah.
Is it really simulated and feel like that? How would you, like, for someone who's never seen it, how would you give them like a quick idea of what you mean? Is it similar to real life?
Yeah, like the kind of variation of things that you can do in sim racing is very similar to what you can do in real life. Really, the only restriction is what the software you're using can do. Like if there's content for, say, Formula Vs. On iRacing, we have Formula Vs, which
Mhm.
is great because Formula Vs race everywhere. And if like you really want to try Formula Vs out, you can get iRacing and download the Formula V, and just turn some laps. Or you can do oval racing on iRacing. You can do dirt oval, dirt road, like rallycross. There's a hill climb course on iRacing, or as well. With most of my experiences in sprint races, show like 1 hour and shorter, or endurance races, so like 4-ish hours and more, ranging from open wheelers to touring cars to GT cars like the GT3s and GT4s or prototypes. Kind of the sky is the limit. And if you have a bit of coding knowledge, you can create mods for Assetto Corsa and or Factor 2 and everything really. So the sky is
That's
kind of the
super
limit.
exciting. Yeah, it's kind of wonderful how much creativity there is in it.
Mhm.
You know, even though it feels like it's all in someone's virtual world or something, it's actually really hands-on and very creative. So we have to talk about screen to speed a little bit. I feel like there was kind of an explosion in your life or something in the past year. Like this wasn't too long ago that you signed with Prismatic, and then pretty
Yeah.
soon after you were actually racing a real car. So
Yeah.
how can you help us understand this?
I
Have
mean,
you even understood it yet?
no, I'm still kind of trying to figure out like how did I go from timid email of hey guys, can I join the community to wow, okay, I'm like almost the face of the team,
Yeah,
really.
exactly something.
Yeah. Um I guess kind of how throughout last year it went was taking part in endurance series, doing like the 23 Petit Le Mans, doing stuff on my own on iRacing, just slowly getting better and getting better
Mhm.
just by racing more and more and more till in like early-ish December, someone in Prismatic, I'll actually name drop her, Olivia Hayward, she brought to people's attention like, hey, there's this time trial going on for what we would then find out to be screen to speed and learn more about it. But initially anyway, it was like, oh hey, there's this time attack going on with this whole competition element of it and prizes and like the kind of scale of it didn't seem quite real at first, but the more we got into it, the more I should actually back up a little bit. So Screen to Speed, the original Screen to Speed competition was set up using iRacing as the simulator that it used. The qualification element of it would have 15 drivers who set the fastest time, and there was also a social media element to it. But it really caught my attention because it was like an opportunity to compete on a whole different level almost. Like I'd competed at a high level before because we had also done the British F4 Esports series,
Mhm.
what is now last year and was at the time kind of just a couple of months ago. I was a reserve driver in that series.
Oh, wow. Okay, I
But
didn't know that.
even then, that was like the highest level of competition I'd ever taken part in, really, because there were like actual teams from F4, actual racing drivers from British F4
Mhm.
taking part in that series,
Yeah.
as well as us and our little team feeling like we're kind of David versus Goliath in a way.
And how did you do in that? How was that?
Um, that was interesting
Mhm.
because this is long before I had the motorcycle. So like I was doing testing alongside the two main drivers that we had, and it turned out for one of the rounds at Knockhill that one of our drivers had been injured. I think that's what happened. One of our drivers had been injured and wouldn't be able to take part in the race. And I found this out 30 minutes before the race
Oh, wow.
on the bus home. Um, so I got the call up
Adrenaline rush.
basically to race 30 minutes prior, and I think that was probably also my best result of the season because Knockhill was the track that I knew the best. I think I finished 11th in the first race and then probably
Oh,
13th
wow.
in the second race. So no
Wow.
points, but still like much better than I
Yeah,
expected.
like, that's really high competition. So you had some confidence.
Yeah, I had
Yeah.
some amount of confidence in myself going into it, and it was funny because it was the whole way through, there was two of us kind of vying for the top spot, myself and Emily Howe, who is one of the owners of Prismatic.
Mhm.
If I say Priz, by the way, that's referring to Prismatic. We just
Okay, good to
shorten
know.
it because
Yeah.
it's a lot of
Yeah.
syllables.
Mhm.
But it was me and Emily vying for the top spot for a long time during the time attack, where like one of us would set a time and then the other would beat it. And there was a point where we were kind of starting to think, okay, this is like getting towards a pace ceiling. And then I think one of us probably just broke that pace ceiling. Then the other would break the pace ceiling and just keep going and going and
Oh, wow, that
going.
sounds like a good competition, pushing
It,
the boundary, pushing the edge.
it was, yeah. I think on the last day that the time attack was open, Emily put in just an unbelievably fast lap right at the end that I kind of looked at and I was like, wow, okay, I would never be able to do that. Oh, sorry, I should as well say that Screen to Speed was done on the infield road course at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. So it's a relatively short course. It's about, I think, a mile, 2 miles maybe,
Okay.
and there's about 9 turns. But we were doing this in the Ford Mustang next gen car, so the Cup Series next gen car. So you can imagine something that quick on a course that short, you would probably assume that it wouldn't really work, but it did, because it was almost like every corner just flowed into the next, and that's what
Huh.
made it so difficult. Because if you messed up one corner, that would like ruin your entry
So
into the
you
next
really had to
corner.
kind of have flow the whole time.
Yeah, you had to just hook up the whole lap together, and that will get you a really, really quick time. Don't even remember what lap time I had done, but like people were taking it so seriously because it was a pretty high level of competition. The stakes of, if you qualify, you get flown to Vegas, put in a hotel, get to compete at the track, that I'd put in like 1,000 laps. I know that track like nothing else. It haunts me in my dreams.
You're still going around it at night.
Yeah, but even like 1,000 laps later, Emily was able to find like 3/10 on me, just out of nowhere at the end, and I was like, wow, no way I'm gonna win this. Like going to Vegas, I was like, hey, you know what, Emily's gonna win this. It's fine. I'm gonna enjoy the experience, try my best. If I don't win, I don't win. It's kind of exactly what I expect to happen. It's also one of those things of, you never really consider it over until the last day. Because sure, me and Emily were a considerable margin ahead of most of the rest of the field, but it was never really a thing of I thought it was over until the day that the time attack ended, really.
Yeah, because when it's that close, at least between you two, anything could happen, and did, actually.
I mean, yeah, it did in the end. But the 15 of us that qualified on pace were, then there was the whole rigmarole of figuring out the logistics of it, flights, accommodation around the accommodation, and that kind of thing. But it was also around this time that I was starting to do my motorcycle training, funnily enough. I think actually a few days beforehand, I had bought my motorcycle and ridden it home. It was the first time I rode on public roads alone.
Oh, that's memorable.
Yeah, it was definitely a wild experience. And that bike has a whole other story after Screen to Speed.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I'll stick on Screen to Speed for the moment, though.
Okay, we'll come back to it.
Get to Vegas, get to my hotel, go to sleep. Next day, we get ferried out to Resorts World.
Who are you with then? You said there's 10 people, 15?
There was 15 of us that qualified on pace, and then they had 5 like influencers and then a WNBA player. I think they also wanted to have an astronaut, but she couldn't actually come because she had to do astronaut things. Significantly more important than a sim racing competition. But of the 15 that qualified, I think a not insignificant number, something like 6, 7, 8, were also other people that I knew from Prismatic. So there was Emily who qualified. There was Olivia who brought all of our attention to it. There was Roxy Gibson, who is a member of the management of the team. Other community members like Christina Ryan or...
And you all were close, but had you actually been together in real life much?
No, I had never met any of these people.
Okay. So this was kind of something that you're all meeting for the first time in a way too, in real life. And in Vegas, I mean, my gosh.
Yeah.
It's like almost like a paid kind of
it was almost trip. It was almost a paid holiday in a way. This was my first time meeting all of these people that I'd talked to extensively online.
And racing and working with. And,
and that was an amazing experience, as well as getting to meet like everyone else that qualified.
Like, it seems like it would be almost overwhelming to have real life contact suddenly with the people. And also, I mean, at first you were still sim racing, but knowing that you're going to even have real contact with the car possibly. And it's a lot of different worlds colliding, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a lot all together. Because, I mean, I don't know, like anyone who's ever been to Dublin knows it's like not a particularly large city.
It's a pretty big city. But yeah, it's not like
it's
American
a large city, but it's not like New York or Vegas.
No, nothing is like Vegas anyway. So
well, yeah, nothing is like Vegas, but I'm sure you can kind of understand then going from
Dublin to
Vegas is a monumental culture shock.
Absolutely.
Which was one thing entirely. And then the fact that I think when I stepped off the plane, I hadn't slept in about 20 hours.
Oh gosh, so you're in kind
Uh,
of weird dream, virtual,
Basically
real, where
almost in a dream state trying to find my hotel room so I can just please go to sleep.
oh yeah, I know that feeling.
It's funny in hindsight, but it didn't set me up to like Vegas as a city.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a weird place. I mean,
it's a strange place. Not a bad place necessarily, just very strange.
especially when you're blurring all these worlds because Vegas is sort of already a little bit trying
Yeah,
to be unreal, and then you have
and then you
all
have
these
like
jet lag and
yeah,
sim
jet lag,
racing and
sim racing,
real
exhaustion.
humans, and real hotel rooms, real
Yeah.
planes.
What's real? What is real? And what is fake? Who
It feels
knows?
like that when you have jet lag, but much
Yeah.
less Vegas and
Mhm.
sim racing after you'd been doing thousands of sim racing laps.
Yeah, but yeah, I think it was Friday morning. Yeah, it would have been Friday morning, I think. Yes, I think Friday morning when we all basically met in the lobby of Resorts World and got checked
Yeah.
in. The other thing is, hotels in Ireland are not like hotels in Vegas. Obviously, most hotels in Vegas are like also casinos because gambling is a huge thing in
Yeah,
Vegas.
pumping
But
oxygen
like,
in with the light full blast and
yeah, the weirdest thing was that you can smoke cigarettes inside, which is
Ugh.
completely alien concept to somebody from the EU being like, "No, you can't smoke inside. You can literally nowhere can you smoke inside."
For your
Almost my
generation,
entire
yeah.
life, it's been completely alien that you could smoke inside anywhere. Yeah,
Mm.
but I don't know, the scale, I guess, of hotels is kind of crazy in Vegas. But got to meet everyone finally.
In
It
this
was
weird
also
hotel lobby,
in this
cavernous, probably
Ma
crazy.
crazy hotel lobby. Basically, check in, drop off bags in your hotel room, and then, "Okay, we're going to the track." Like,
Describe the track, by the way, a little bit.
the track is Las Vegas Motor Speedway, so the, track that the Pennzoil 400 and the South Bank Casino 400, whatever the autumn race is called. It was
To the
Las Ve
next.
Yeah, it was actually my first time to a racetrack as well. A
Oh,
lot of
wow.
firsts
Gosh.
in this whole
Yeah,
experience.
almost one after the other. Can
Las
you
Vegas Motor
remember, like, what that
Speedway.
was like when you first walked in, or were you still jet lagged and
No, I was feeling pretty human by that point. I think I was running on, like, 4 hours of sleep, but I was, like,
you seem to be pretty
awake.
good at that, running on 4 hours.
Yeah, it's the student's life.
Yeah, and the
Um,
sim life too, a little bit, isn't it?
I mean, if you have a race late at night for your time zone, you're just gonna stay up late.
You kinda lose track of
Um,
time, especially somewhere like Twitch or something, it's easy
yeah,
to
it
forget what
is.
time it is,
It really is.
or never know what time it is, really.
One minute it's 9 o'clock, and then the next minute, "Oh god, it's 12:30."
Yeah, something
That
very
kinda
weird
thing.
with time in those spaces. But anyway,
Uh,
so your first view of the racetrack in real life, what was that feeling like?
a little bit surreal and a little bit overwhelming because it's huge. You never really realize how large a racetrack is really,
Because you
or
always
like
see the camera angles, but
actually
different.
being there is different. Yeah,
Mhm.
because like you think a mile and a half racetrack, it's not that long really. The straights are
Sounds like
close
it's
to half
not, but
mile,
mhm.
but it's huge. It's Las Vegas Motor Speedway is the size of like a large shopping center in Ireland, which is crazy for just an oval basically to take up that much space with all the grandstands and then all the parking and all the
Mhm.
catering stuff outside
Yeah.
was wild, to say the least. Then getting into the track, we were in the infields in the space that Dream Racing usually uses for their on-track experiences. We were in there with all the sims and stuff.
It was a big room with everyone had their own setup, right? Yeah.
We only had 10 sims, so there's
10, okay.
19 of us that were going to be racing. We
Oh,
had
I
10
see. So you
sims, so there's
did
2 heat
some shifts,
races.
kind of, yeah.
And we had to take turns basically doing testing and trying to match up with similarly proportioned people to get the sim rig
Oh.
set up to where
Oh,
like
sure, because you have to adjust everything to your body like a real
mhm,
car. I
yeah.
mean, yeah.
And that was like an interesting thing all in and of itself because I never like sat in a sim rig before either.
Mm. Oh, really? How did
Very
that feel?
bizarre.
Mhm.
It was just different really. I was mostly just focused on getting used to new equipment, the new seating position,
Mhm.
kind of just everything to do with it. That was my main focus on the Friday, and as well on the Saturday we were doing like more so kind of media things for the
Mhm.
documentary that was eventually released,
Mm.
and kind of setting up more fine-tuning things for the actual racing and the broadcast later on that day. So during Saturday, there was like Trucks and Xfinity and Cup Series doing races and practices and qualifyings and stuff. And
Wow.
I don't know, nothing really prepares you for just how loud race
Mhm.
cars actually are when
Yeah.
there's 30 of them flying past you.
Mhm. You really
It's
can't talk.
Yeah, you can't talk. I had to wear like a pair of headphones basically all the time
Mhm.
outside of
Your body feels the vibration.
yeah, it's crazy. But then Saturday evening we had the broadcast and the race. So there's two heat races. I think I finished second in my heat race. So that set me into the feature race, which was the big important one. Is like win or lose, win you get all the prizes.
And the prize was
Well, the main prize was $15,000 in cash,
not
which
bad.
is
Mhm.
a lot of money.
Yeah.
Um, then the secondary prize was being able to come back to Vegas to do a test in a race car at Las Vegas Motor
A
Speedway.
real race
That's
car, we should say.
yes, a real
An
race
actual
car,
Porsche, right?
an actual Porsche. Yes,
So, yeah, it's definitely
yeah.
motivating. So,
Oh
you're
yeah.
feeling pretty motivated and confident where you're like, "Okay, I can probably do this," or you're like, "Ah, I'm just gonna do my best. There's no way I'm gonna win." What was your
My attitude going into it actually was on Friday. I wasn't feeling super confident because my pace was down from what I was doing at home. But
Oh,
that was actually the case for everybody. Everyone
oh,
was down on pace because we were all
yeah.
adapting. But going into the heats, I think I started my heat on pole and then got a bad start, and that's why I dropped down to
Mm,
seconds. But starting on pole in the heat was really confidence inspiring, and for the feature, I was able to put together quite a good lap to get on
mm.
pole again
Oh,
for the
okay.
feature race.
Then you were like,
So
"Okay, I can do it."
yeah.
Mhm,
It was really only then that I put myself on pole for the feature race. I was kinda like, "Okay, you know what? I could actually win this. Like, this could actually genuinely happen." I kind of even feel the nerves coming back a little bit again. It was sort of
yeah.
like a electricity almost going
Mhm.
through every bit of my body of, "Oh
That's
god,
such
this could
a
happen."
that's really special.
Yeah. I think, after the race, I said it was the most stressful 20 laps of my life, and I still stand by that. It was definitely the most stressed I'd ever been in my entire life because off the start, I got a pretty good start. Got into turn
Mm,
1 first, got out of
mhm.
turn 1 first with Emily right behind me.
Oh,
And
Emily again.
yeah, Emily right behind me. Emily, who is incredibly experienced, incredibly quick.
Mhm.
And I don't say that just to big up the fact that I won and I beat her, but, like, just the amount of respect I have for her as a racing driver,
Yeah.
having her just sitting behind me 20 laps, waiting for me to make a mistake
Oh, that's
was, like,
pressure.
the
Yeah.
thing in the back of my head of, "Okay, you need to keep this clean, keep it clean, keep it clean."
Mm, mm,
And that's basically all I did, just kept it clean. I didn't push particularly hard, I didn't open up much of a gap. I just held it steady enough that she would have to, like, really push to try and
mm,
overtake me, and that's kind of what happened. She started to overdrive her car just a little bit.
mhm,
She would get close, and I would see her on the rail of getting closer. I would pick up the pace just a little bit, and
mhm,
then she would
mhm,
drop back because she's
mm,
made a mistake. And then she would
smart.
close it back up and drop back, and close it back
Mm,
up and
mm,
drop back. And I think coming to the last corner on the last lap, I was like, "Okay, no, can't celebrate yet. Have to get, like, into turn 1 after taking the checker flag before I can celebrate." And I, like, specifically remember thinking that, but even then, took
mm.
the checker flag, got to turn 1. It wasn't like leap out of my seat, overjoyed. This is like, race is finished, I have won now.
But you still couldn't let go or what?
It was more like I don't know, it was kind of like if you go and watch the documentary, you can see that I kinda just sit there for a minute.
Yeah, yeah, you
Would,
do
like,
see
it
your body
slowly
kind of
dawn on me
yeah.
that what I've actually just accomplished. And that's kind of how it felt. I got the checker and it's like, intellectually, I know what just happened, but emotionally, it's just a surge of pride and almost a sense of shock, that I just did this and this is what this means and everything kind of coming together. So I just sit there and cover my face basically being like, how do I express this? And I
Yeah.
couldn't really figure it out because even for like 10 minutes, 15 minutes after that, as the cameras kept rolling on broadcast, I don't make a very good showing for myself. I'm fairly inarticulate at that point because I'm still just like
Can't believe this.
overwhelmed.
And also, like you were saying, you were so stressed, so it's a lot at once. It's like your body's releasing, but at the
Yeah.
same time, you're feeling another adrenaline rush when you're starting
Mhm.
to let it sink in what's really happened. So it's a
Yeah,
kind of a weird. It's like the tide going out and in at the same time.
it is actually, yeah.
It's actually nice to watch. I'll try to put some clips in because you can see
Mhm.
the emotion even though you don't say anything. You can see
Yeah,
the dawning upon
the
you of
yeah,
what
that it
what
kind of
you've
just
done.
comes to me that like, "Oh my goodness, this is what
Mm,
has just happened,"
mm.
and everyone else congratulating me, and I'm kinda just standing there kind of awestruck in a
Well,
way.
I mean, it is a big deal, and
Mm,
it's like you're just going with it, going with it, going with the inertia of it, and then it's
it kind
there.
of hits of like, all
Yeah,
of a sudden, "Oh my goodness."
but
Um,
that still wasn't quite the end, so
no, that wasn't quite the end. Like, we finish up the broadcast of presenting the check and the trophy and things, and then
then you went back,
yeah, went back,
rode your
um
motorcycle some more.
yeah, I went home, rode my motorcycle some more. This is where the kind of whole other story of the motorcycle comes into it
Maybe we can have a
because
motorcycle interlude now.
yes, the motorcycle interlude. So the bike that I bought was a 2019 Kawasaki Z400.
Why do I think it's
Uh,
green for some reason?
green and black, yes.
Okay.
It's the Kawasaki lime kind of color that they
Mhm.
have,
Yeah,
with
yeah, that's why.
black.
Mhm.
Lovely little bike. I loved it to bits. But it was also an absolute nightmare in the beginning because that bike has an alarm on it.
Oh.
And that alarm, maybe the battery in it went or
Oh, no.
something was going wrong with it. The previous owner hadn't ridden it much really, and that would really be enough to kill a motorcycle battery
Mhm.
sometimes.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
the alarm had killed that battery stone dead. So when I got home, it wouldn't start
Oh
because the
gosh.
battery was dead.
Mm.
Try and charge it overnight, it wouldn't hold a charge. So go out and buy another battery. It managed to kill that one too. It wasn't great because
Mm-mm.
for about a month and a
Even though you
half
were completely rich now.
yeah, I could have gone out and bought another bike or fixed it or whatever, but I also didn't wanna spend all of that money.
No, of course not.
But it was kind of funny where for a month and a half or so, I rode around with a pair of jump leads in my bag all
Oh
the
gosh.
time, just because sometimes I would go into work, like, it'd start in the morning, I'd go into work, and I'd
Mm.
come out from work, and then the bike wouldn't start, and then I think I, like, watched a YouTube video or, like, read an article somewhere about how you can get lithium-ion batteries for motorcycles, and I'd never considered that as a possibility, but looked into, like, why would you buy a lithium-ion battery? And it's
Mhm.
because as opposed to lead-acid batteries where when you drain the charge out of it, it puts out less voltage,
Mhm.
a lithium-ion battery doesn't do that. It puts out the same voltage basically until it's dead, and for what it's worth, that was what was preventing the bike from starting. So if the battery was drained a bit, it's not putting out enough
Mm.
voltage to turn the starter motor.
Okay.
I kind of just replaced the lead-acid
Okay.
battery
And
that was in it with a lithium-ion battery, and that
it
solved the
was fine.
problem. Because even if the alarm was still, like, depleting the battery a bit, the battery was still putting out enough voltage to start the bike,
Okay.
and
That's
then
all
as
you
you
need.
ride the bike around, it's gonna recharge the battery
Recharge.
again.
Yeah. That was a success.
Yeah, that was a massive success. It made my
Yeah.
life owning a motorcycle so much easier.
Okay. Well, so this all happened in the space between
Yeah, Screen to Speed was the start of March,
okay, March.
so it was kind of in the period between March and June where I go home, go back to work, now I have a motorcycle that I ride to work every day, and then eventually figure out the problems with the bike.
A lot of different worlds you were living in.
Yeah,
Still are. Right.
still am,
Mhm.
yeah, but during that period, Stephanie and everyone behind the scenes was figuring out the logistics of getting me back to do the test, and figuring out, okay, is the fact that I don't have a driving license going to be okay? Like, is that okay,
Yeah,
basically?
in the
Like,
States,
was
where
actually fine.
yeah. But you do
I
have your permit too, so it's
Yeah,
there's a kind
I have my permit, but haven't done any driver training. I did my theory test and that's it. But yeah, driving the race car was incredible really because obviously I got flown back. Yeah.
they realized you can drive even though you don't have a license, you're still gonna be allowed. I mean,
Yeah.
everything was
Fig-
set up, and then
mhm.
this was summer, right, when you came back?
Yeah, this was summer, so I was actually terrified that the heat would, like, not literally kill me, but it was gonna be, like, almost 40 Celsius in Vegas, and, like, the highest
Yeah.
we might get here is the 30s if it's really hot. But actually, it was kind of fine because the air was
Okay.
so dry, it's in the middle of the
Yeah, it's a
desert.
different hot. But yeah, so you can't come in the middle of summer to Vegas to drive a
Yeah.
sports car without a license. I love it.
Yeah, things that would be in almost any other context extremely illegal. But it turned out it was fine for the
Mhm.
insurance and that. They brought me to the track, and I should also have mentioned that, Sabre Cook, who raced in the W Series and, now races in the, I believe, Porsche Carrera North American Deluxe Series. I might be getting the words in the wrong
I can't
order, but
remember. I
it's
don't.
she races in that series at the moment for Kelly Moss, and Kelly Moss were also a partner on, Screen to Speed. So she was there to help
Wow.
coach me basically for driving a real car because 'cause I'd never
Pretty
driven a real
exciting, huh?
car before.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was incredible to meet her.
What a nice coach to have for the first your
Yeah,
first driving.
what a qualified coach to have for my first
Yeah,
time driving a
amazing.
race car, and she was a great help for, like, helping my nerves, I guess, in a way,
Mm,
because
how so? Just with giving you advice?
it was mostly advice because, the only time I had ever controlled a real car before was my mom's Skoda Fabia in a car park.
Okay, a little bit
It
different.
was terrifying, which is really funny. So I was kind of going to Vegas with, like, no driving experience, being, like, terrified, like, really, really nervous up until basically the day I get on the plane, and then at that point, I'm like, "Well, it's gonna go how it goes."
Yeah.
And at that
Hmm.
point, the nerves kinda fall away a little bit because it's just,
It's
like,
gonna happen.
happening. It's
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
happen whether I'm prepared or not.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna get on that plane, go back to Vegas and drive that car.
When you're thinking about it and anticipating it, it's the hard part.
Yeah. I think really on the day that I was going to be driving the car, the
Mhm.
revelation that, okay, thank God it's an automatic, it has, like, paddle shifters, I don't have to worry about a clutch.
That's a
That was the thing that
huge difference.
really did make a difference for me.
But it is America, so
I mean, yeah, it's America. It's
chances
a
are it's gonna be an automatic.
chances are it's gonna be an automatic, which is strange. We don't really have, well,
No, I know.
up until recently, automatics weren't really that common here.
I know one of the first times I came to Europe, I rented a car and
Mhm.
just assumed it would be automatic. Being an American was definitely wrong. So that's how I learned to drive a stick shift. I had no choice. I rented the car in the middle of nowhere. It was like the only car they had. The guy went around the block a few times, like taught me how to do it. Anyway,
That's an incredibly funny story.
yeah, it was great. But
Yeah.
that's kind of what you did too. Sometimes you
Um,
just have to throw yourself into these situations. It's like this is happening. I'm either going to be stuck in the middle of nowhere. I'm going to learn to drive this car. And
yeah.
for you, it was like I'm
I
gonna I'm going to be in a Porsche on the racetrack.
Yeah. I'm
Might as
gonna
well
be
drive.
I'm gonna be, like, given the control of this very expensive car, I need to make sure to not crash it. You
We
know
should
what?
say that simulation really is like driving
Oh,
for
no, it
people who
is.
haven't done it before. I mean, that there's a reason that race car drivers use simulation so much.
Mhm.
It actually is training. Yes, it's different to be in the real car, but you had been practicing a lot.
Yeah. That is kind of the thing that, like, simulator racing is obviously not perfect in a lot of ways there are, like, particular things with every, company's sim software that's not quite right, like tire
Mhm.
modeling or aerodynamics or chassis dynamics or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But even in spite of that, just the, like, muscle memory of, okay, this is how you control a car at speed, this is what you
Mhm.
do if a car does this and this and this.
And this is what
Like,
the
just,
track is like.
yeah, this is what the track is like, this is where the track goes. Just
Mhm.
immediately took over when I got the car moving.
Mhm.
'Cause getting a car around when it's going slowly is completely different to, like, pushing a car to its limits.
Mm, how
Um
so? That's interesting.
um, kind of in the sense that when you drive a car, I think the pit road speed was something around, like, 35 mile an hour,
Mhm. Mhm.
you don't get, at least I feel you don't get a lot of feedback from the car. It's not telling you a lot about what it's doing and what you're doing to it.
Mm.
But, like, when you're stamping on the brakes going into a corner, and the rear tires lock up just a little bit, you can feel the rear end step out just a bit.
It's almost part of
Or
your body then or something.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It does actually kind of almost become part of your body because you kind of almost like an instinctual thing of like, okay, this is how large the car is. This is where my left tires are, my right tires, and all of that kind
Mhm,
of thing. You almost kind of feel what the thing that you're controlling is doing, whether it's
mhm,
a motorcycle or a bicycle or like a car,
yep,
because obviously all of my experience controlling simulated cars has been pretty much at racing speeds.
mhm, mhm,
So like 100 kilometers an hour plus.
mm.
Like as
That was
soon
part
as
of it too then, yeah.
yeah,
You're
as soon
used to that.
as yeah, I was used to like the speed of it really. So
Mhm,
as soon as I
mhm.
got up to speed, I was like, okay, this is what I'm used
Familiar.
to.
Yeah.
Just like there's now the extra forces of G forces and being able to feel the car. You know, they say through the seat of your pants, but they basically literally mean it because
Mhm.
that's the bit of
Yeah.
you that's connected to the car. It kind of became like
You relaxed, or also
relaxed into it
mhm.
and like realizing, okay, this is what I'm used to. I know what I'm doing now.
Mhm.
And I got surprisingly comfortable in the car surprisingly quickly. I didn't think I would get so comfortable so quickly.
Was it more exciting than you thought? Less exciting? Was it how did it
Um,
compare in terms of the simulation versus the real thing? Was
I think really the simulation can never really capture almost in a way like how driving a car feels because like in a simulation you're relying entirely off of what you can see, what you can hear, and what you can feel from the wheel.
mm,
Um, but when you're actually driving a car in real life, you're feeling more so the G-forces on your body and what the car
mm,
like, through the seat, what the car is doing,
mm,
rather than necessarily the steering feel and that kind
mhm.
of thing, and as well with ABS, how it can, like, push a brake pedal back at you, and that
Mm.
kind of like, how that feels. Because if you don't have specific hardware, you can't get that brake feeling.
Yeah, did you have any moment like, "Oh, I'm really driving a Porsche. This is really happening," or were you just in it?
Um, it was only ever when the car was stationary. So, like,
I
in the
see.
pit lane, getting into the car, like, oh my god, this is happening." Then car moving immediately, that turns off, focused on driving.
Mhm.
Um,
Isn't that
or
funny? It's so habitual in a way. The body just kinda locks into these things. A lot of drivers talk about that
yeah,
feeling where you almost just you're a different person almost when when
yeah.
you're in that.
I mean, I can tell you that you do sort of become a different person when you race, and even in the context of a race, it can bring out, like, frustration and, like,
Mm,
aggression that you don't usually have in
mhm.
just being a normal person outside of the race car, but as soon as you're in the car, it's like
Heightened.
you do sort of become a different person because of the context and, like, the level of danger in a way and kind of the stakes of, "Okay, I don't want to break the car or lose or crash into somebody else," or, "Oh, this person hit me. I'm really
Mhm.
angry at them."
Are you
Uh,
really competitive? Does that drive you?
I do get very competitive,
Mhm. I
yeah.
mean, that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not a bad thing, and in a sim racing space, it's quite good to be competitive because
Mhm.
it drives you to be better.
Yeah, like what you were talking about with your colleague. It sounds like
Mhm.
she made you better.
She
You
did,
made each other
definitely.
better, so yeah.
We definitely pushed each other further than we would have gone without that.
So tell me, what was it like that race,
Mm,
driving the real Porsche?
driving the real Porsche.
The finale,
Yeah, the, like,
people
actual
watching, standing
test.
around. I mean, what was yeah.
There weren't actually that many people. It was at the track, it was me, the 2 videographers, Steffi, Victoria Thomas, who is the CEO of, Kelly Moss, Sabre
Mhm,
Cook, the racing driver who was coaching me, and then one of the coaches, from Dream Racing, who was, like, also doing a bit of, like,
mhm,
advice because 'cause he'd driven that specific car.
I see. Good group.
Um, yeah, a great group of people to have, and it was really funny because Victoria was definitely the more conservative, voice
Mhm,
in my ear compared to
mhm.
Steffi, where Victoria was like, "Oh, just take your time, like, you don't have to go full send."
Yeah,
And
Steffi was like,
Steffi was
"Go
like,
for it."
"No, go for it, full send, full send." But I was honestly really surprised just how quick I got comfortable in the car because,
Mhm,
the first car they actually had me drive was a Porsche Cayman GT4 road car, and for whatever reason, the way that handled was, like, when you hit the brakes hard into a corner, the rear brakes would have a little bit of a tendency to lock up. So every time I would brake up just a little too hard, the rear would step out, and I would
okay.
have to
Not
catch
what
it, which isn't ideal in a racing setting, but,
you no.
like, having me hit the brakes and then, oh god, rear stepping out, catch it multiple times. That got me like, okay, you know what? Yeah, I can do this. This
Mhm.
is so much fun. It's actually something that I can do. People say they get addicted to racing, and I totally get that now. Like being a sim racer, it's not really like feeling of an addiction or anything of like having to do it, but like kind of the feeling of control and like accomplishment of like you can
Mhm.
muscle this big, heavy, powerful car around the racetrack reasonably quickly, control the moments where it steps out just a little bit. Like if you get too heavy on the throttle, like you can control that. Brake, it steps out on the
Yeah, there's
brakes, you
something
can catch
addictive
that.
about that too, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
finding that kinda balance
Finding
of
mhm.
whatever that is, like almost like surfing or something where you're just finding the sweet spot.
Yeah. Kind of like where you're pushing just at the edge of grip and it's pushing back at you being like, watch it, buddy.
Mhm.
Watch it.
And you really
Watch
have
it.
to, I mean, it's no joke.
Yeah, like it's no joke at all. Yeah. I mean, I am unbelievably lucky to have been able to
Mhm.
experience that.
And do you want more? Was it weird for it to be over?
It was definitely hard to be told, okay, like the time we have allotted is over. You need to
Yeah.
bring the car
Oh.
in.
Oh, that's so
That
hard.
was quite sad. I was like, please no, let me have
Can
10
we
more
just do one
laps.
more? Yeah.
Come on, I can do a better lap.
Oh,
And it's
yeah.
like partially this is an amazing experience. Like definitely the racing driver in me being like, no, I can go faster. I can go
Mhm,
faster.
mhm, mhm,
Let me
mhm.
do it.
Maybe you might actually be a race car driver. Whoa.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get to that.
Okay.
But, like, going home after that was kinda wild of, okay, I've had this experience, and I had already been looking into, okay, how do you get a, like, competition license in Ireland,
Mhm.
from Motorsport Ireland, and
Yeah.
that was, like, the proverbial kick in the ass, basically, to actually get
Yeah.
that done. So I think, like, 2 weeks after I had gotten home, I got booked in for the license course, that
Oh,
Motorsport Ireland do.
that was quick.
I think it
Mhm.
was a month ago-ish today. Um, which was going down to Mondello, which is Ireland's primary racetrack, to do a theory course and a theory test, as well as a practical element of it, of driving around
Wow,
the
getting
Mondello
serious.
National Circuit in a Mazda with a roll cage in it. I don't know what kind of Mazda it was, if I'm entirely honest, but getting to push a car again on a racetrack.
Mhm.
Though this time it was my first time driving a manual. I got the car up to speed into 3rd and then did not change gears.
Oops.
Um, oh
Just
no,
kept it in there.
yeah, I just
Stay
kept
in
it in
3rd.
3rd. The
Yeah, it
instructor was
works.
like, "Oh, if you're not comfortable, like, changing gears, you can just leave it in 3rd."
Yeah, okay.
But aside from the fact that meant I was, like, bogging down out of the corners,
Mhm.
I was, like, trying to push it hard within reason, because all you really need to do for that test is not make any major mistakes on the
Okay.
track.
Mhm.
But obviously, you can get a better result on the practical test if you show a degree of competence of racing lines, braking, smoothness, and that kind of thing. So I did that and submitted the license application, and I'm waiting to hear back on that. Yeah, soon I will have a competition license in Ireland.
So I'm totally confused though. How can you have that and not get your driver's license?
Similar to how under 18s can like race cars in like
Mhm.
through Europe, but not have a driving license. You
Well, why
don't
not
have
just get your driver's license though? You just
uh
don't want
because
to?
that's like an extra 600-ish euro,
Oh,
and then there's like a 6 to 8 month waiting list in some driving test
wow.
centers, and in some it's even longer.
Wow.
But yeah, it's a bit of a grim one at the moment, but that's mainly for car
Mhm.
license tests.
But if you
But
don't
like,
need it, it's kinda cool that you don't drive a car in real life, but you
yeah,
race cars. I kinda like it.
yeah. I mean, hopefully, if I get the license back soon enough, I might be able to do an arrive and drive in the historic series that is run in Mondello.
Oh,
And the historic series has like multiple different classes of cars in it and has different types of cars and that kind of thing.
rent a car or lease, do something like with a team or what is it?
Yes, there's somebody
Mhm.
I know that races in that series regularly,
Mhm.
who has contacts within the series for people that I could rent a car off of for a race weekend. The
Okay.
like real dream is to race in the Ford Fiesta Z-Tech series in Mondello, which
Tell me about that.
is not particularly glamorous.
Okay.
Um, It's kind of the, like, full contact sport of Irish motorsports. I mean, that's kind of the truth, because in that series, they race, late '90s to early 2000s Ford Fiesta Z-Techs.
Okay,
So
only for
they're
Fiestas. Wow,
yeah, only Ford Fiesta
that's
Z-Techs in that
special.
series. There's
Cool.
also a Fiesta ST series for, like, later ones with the turbochargers.
Okay. No
But
idea that
these
such a
are
thing existed.
yeah, but this is a class of, like, little hatchbacks with 1.25-liter engines,
Oh,
gutted
perfect.
with,
That's perfect.
like,
That's what you
race
need.
prepped and everything. Yeah. It looks like it's so much fun, and there's a couple
Yeah,
of people
sounds
that I
fun.
know, that race in that series, and there are at least 4 women that actually run that series at the moment,
Oh, how
which
cool.
is incredible. So,
I'll
that's
have to
the
look
ideal,
into that.
but the reason I would want to go into that is because it's, like, the cheapest, si racing series in Ireland to get
Mhm.
into.
Yeah.
Because like, you can get a race like, a prepped race car for somewhere in the region of €8,000, which is a lot of money, but I also did win 15K.
Yeah, you have it.
So I have the
You just
money
have to
there.
invest it in the right way.
Yeah.
Such a crazy thing that you didn't start out with go-karts and all this stuff. It's so interesting you did the sim and now you're
Mhm.
going into it. It's really I guess that's gonna be more and more in the future, but
Yeah.
you're really at this edge of change.
Yeah, I do think that we are, over time, going to see more sim racers get into real racing. I know there have been sim racers that have gotten into real racing before,
Mhm.
and
It's
they've
still pretty
proven
new
to
though.
be pretty competent.
The
Jimmy
better the
Broadbent is a prime
technology gets,
example.
how do you feel about sim racing versus real racing when it comes to something like the environment and all these other issues that we face? Do you think about that at all? Like, why am I going to get into, ICE, internal combustion engine
Mhm.
stuff when, not that sim stuff, it also takes a lot of energy. It's just in a different
Mhm.
way. But have you thought much about all that and this change that we're going through now with electric and so on?
I have a bit, yeah, and I do feel like, at the very least, at the top levels of motorsport, I do kind of expect ICUs to go the way of the dodo, really. Um, and not particularly in the distant future. I kind of expect it to happen in, like, the next decade or so. That, like, the top levels of racing are gonna be electric, but, like, for grassroots stuff, I do think that the ICE is gonna stick around. And what I've thought about that, it's kind of like I have thought about anyway, the element of environmental impact that racing has, not even from just exhaust pollution, but like rubber pollution and all of the rubber that
Hmm.
has to be produced and the pollution that creates and the waste that goes into racing and kind of all of that. And in motorsports anyway, it's sort of what has to happen anyway for internal combustion racing. Um, but as we try to transition anyway towards more sustainable energy sources, like motorsports will have to pick up that baton as well at some stage and start finding more ways to be more sustainable, like how F1 is working towards using renewable fuels rather than like purely fossil fuel derived fuels. Or I know that the engine durability and component durability stuff is to do with sustainability rather than just like having 20 or 40 engines through the whole season, have however many, because it reduces waste.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about the Formula One change. Do you think if their 2030 plan, if it really starts changing in those places, would you imagine it starts changing faster, kind of where you are?
Yeah, I would say so. I'd say that technology will trickle down as it gets more advanced. It'll become cheaper and more accessible further down the ladder of motorsports, like down into the grassroots level. Because that's kind of how it has always been with motorsports anyway. Like, we have motorsports to thank for ABS and traction control, which has
Hmm.
probably personally saved my life a number of times. The motorcycle has, ABS on it, and there have been a
Okay,
number of
so it literally
times
saved your life a few times.
yeah, there's been a number of times I've been spooked, pulled the brakes a bit too hard, or stepped on the rear brake a little bit too hard and felt the ABS being like, "Come on,
Yeah.
buddy, calm down."
Yeah, you really have to be
Um,
careful on the bikes, no joke.
mm, um,
But now you don't have to worry about that. I guess we should tell the story of the dream
yeah.
bike.
So unfortunately, my Kawasaki Z400 was stolen a week before this recording. It's kind of really cruel that it happened when I was in work.
So you were at the cafe
Yeah,
and
I
this
work in
happened?
a cafe in Dublin, but it's kind of cruel that it happened when I was in work and heard the alarm go off and kind of, oh, my
And the
first thought.
alarm, I mean,
Yeah,
gosh, all this stuff with the alarm and the
all of
battery, and
yeah,
you
the
heard the
alarm and the
alarm? Did
battery.
you run out or what?
I heard the alarm go off and like obviously your first thought is never gonna be, "Oh, the bike's being stolen." My first thought was like, "Oh, somebody must have like backed into it or something," because it was in a car park.
Mm.
And I look out the window and just see a guy on it riding away.
Oh, you saw someone
I
riding away.
saw the
Oh,
guy
no.
riding away, yeah.
What could you do?
I
I guess go out screaming, it's not gonna
I guess I could've, but it wouldn't really have done much good
mm.
because that road is quite busy. If I tried to run across, I'd have just gotten hit by a car. So there wasn't really much that I
Oh, I'm so
could
sorry
do.
that happened. Gosh.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I've kind of accepted it at this point.
Mm.
I had theft cover at least on my insurance.
Okay, I was gonna ask, did you
So
get insurance? Did you have insurance? So you
I
get a
did,
little
yeah.
something back?
Yeah, I'll get some amount of money back. I don't know what bike I'm gonna get yet. It'll probably be a CBR 500R because there's a bunch of those on, the secondhand market. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, just be
Um,
careful.
I will
Mhm.
for sure. I
Mm.
will definitely be riding safe. I'm not gonna be proving anyone right about how dangerous
Yeah,
motorcycles
especially
are.
in cities and stuff. Oof.
Mm,
I love motorcycles, but yeah, you're a good driver and you got so much ahead of you, so you gotta be careful.
I will for sure.
Speaking of that, last question. So this is called forever motoring, and
Mhm.
what does that mean to you? Do you when you think about forever motoring, maybe in the context of your own life, and how do you see like your possible future? What would you like to see?
I
What?
guess to me personally, my future with motoring, I would hope anyway that I can be a racing driver, whether it's pro or I can find some way to self-fund like an amateur team in the Z-Tech series. Just because I do love racing so much and I love driving cars quickly. Though, like on the flip side of that, if that's not possible, I do actually really love riding motorcycles too. And I do honestly envision, even with our Irish weather being absolutely miserable sometimes, like my primary mode of transport being a motorcycle for a long, long, long time. Even probably after internal combustion engines are dead and gone, I'll probably still be riding when I'm like 60, 70, 80 if I can.
Yeah, there's something about a motorcycle. Seems like you found that out. So,
Yeah,
uh-oh.
there really is.
Mm-hmm.
They tell you, "Oh, the feeling of freedom you're gonna feel," or like when you're not able to ride for a while, like the itch you feel,
Mm-hmm.
it's under your skin and the whole, "I wanna be on a bike."
Yeah, it becomes like meditative kind of experience too. Not
It
necessarily in
does.
Dublin, but even sometimes in the city.
It is. Of, like, just how much focus you have to put in to be safe and that kinda thing.
Yeah, it's about discipline, really. It's about being present. That's why I
Yeah.
guess it's the meditative thing. You really have to be really extra aware for yourself and everyone around you.
Especially riding in a city, but, like,
Mm-hmm.
even just the joy that you can derive from it riding around country roads. I mean, there have been multiple times I've been just riding home from work, random day, I've been like, "Oh, I'm so glad I'm alive." Like, riding a bike, the sunset
Yeah,
is beautiful, it's
isn't it
nice and
wonderful
warm.
to have
It
that
is.
feeling? Yeah, where you just realize life is special and this is great.
Mm,
I mean, that's always true, but we get so lost in thought or whatever, and we get distracted. But it's great you have those moments where you realize that. I hope you keep having more and more of
same.
those. Congratulations. I wish you the best with
Thank
everything.
you,
Thanks.
and thank you for having me on the show, it's been a real privilege.
Yeah, it's been wonderful to talk to you. And I hope we can do it again because I'm sure there's going to be many more reasons to invite you on the show. So,
Hopefully
and new
hopefully
motorcycles to talk about. So,
yeah, definitely. Hopefully, in an indeterminate amount of time, I'll have done enough exciting things to fill another 90 minutes.
I'm sure. I mean, this has only been 1 year. So, like,
It's true, actually, yeah. This is basically a year of my life. So hopefully the
yeah.
next year is as exciting.
Yeah, just I'm sure it will be, just take it easy and you got a lot of years ahead, so don't worry.
I know it.
No rush. All right. Well, have a good day there. Do something
Thank
good for
you.
yourself.
You too.
I'm sure the next motorcycle will find
I'm sure it will, yeah.
you. All right. Thanks.
Thank you.